That's what I like to hear, Shan. Very nice, brother. The crabs are coming along nicely. doing good. Still working on that EP, and yeah, I'm coming to your country in 2 weeks. Basically, I have a couple gigs, maybe a few gigs south of the border. So getting prepped for that. The 12 note cloverangs. I like that. That's a good that's a good name for them. Um um I can definitely go into some of those patterns. A lot of the patterns I was practicing yesterday were obviously like cutting edge for me. They're what I'm trying to learn right now. So, um, yeah, I'm not exactly even sure which one you were referring to specifically, because there's about four, maybe five combos that I've been messing with. All of it is like super new. Like all this stuff is in the last like 2 weeks for me. Yes. Yep, double two click with the waves on top. Yeah, so yeah, I was doing I was doing two sets of two clicks over three waves in each direction. I know the combo you're talking about now. Yeah. That one's tricky. I can break it down. Yeah, I can explain what it is. It's definitely really hard though. Like part of what I was going into when I was practicing a little bit, like bouncing back and forth with, and probably the hardest part is getting the rhythm of the waves consistent so that they are nice and even in both directions. That's like insano hard, and it my like hand starts to hurt after a while. What up, Mr. Lizard? Wickedest Lizard Turntablism? Oh, this is your YouTube one. Dang. Yo, what up, Scarlett? Um, some basic half timing. So, probably no beat juggling today. Just because everything else is scratching, and I want to keep it sort of together a little bit. But maybe next masterclass next week we'll do beat juggling, and I'll cover that. But you do know some of the basic half timing stuff, like um the the what is it, like uh tap, pausing, chasing, half chasing. I know that you started to do them, and I think there's one juggle that I said was like your best juggle and the most coherent one. um don't uh don't completely like leave behind that stuff, is what I would say. Like, you started to get it, but the goal is to master that kind of stuff. It's all good, Lizard. Maybe, just keep putting in the effort. Maybe you'll get another one. Oh, look who it is. Mr. Dingo, how you been? It's been a minute. Haven't seen you in the chat. I hope all is well in the Danish dingo world. um if they had arthritis ads at the DMC. Oh man. Maybe. Why are you saying because everyone's old, or because of scratching causes arthritis, or both? Let me see. All the same. Oh, all the patterns. Well, the patterns, like a technique, is just a building block, right? That's how you have to think of it. Like when you do tapping, like this is something that I think sometimes people get stuck on, is when you're doing like tap pausing. Like I might show someone like 4 taps per side or 2 taps per side. But those are just like some basic repetitive combos, but you can do any amount of taps per side. And it's just like a baby scratch or whatever, like a baby scratch or a chirp. You have like a certain like a certain technique, but there's so many ways of doing it, and that's what you get from just practicing and experimenting and limiting yourself. That's a good thing to do. Is I think most people, when they're learning things, something that stunts their progress is just moving on too quickly. You see it with scratching and juggling, but with scratching, someone learns the chirp, and then as soon as they can do the chirp, they're like, okay, next scratch, and like learn 100 scratches, but only one way to do each of them. We're all guilty of it, but it's something to be aware of. What up, Shy? What up, Sparks? Okay, anyways. Oh yeah, so Twitch can't see the YouTube comments. So Wicked Lizard's on YouTube. His Twitch isn't logging in. I do think that I heard that Amazon is having a big outage on their servers, and they own Twitch, so that's likely what's happening for some people. So if you're out there and you can't log in on Twitch, but you're hearing it, then go on YouTube and you can still be in the chat there, and I can see you and respond, but it won't show up on the screen. Lejad is guilty of what? Of taking down Amazon? Man, Lejad is blamed for everything. All right. Oh damn. That's well. Are you feeling better now, Dingo? That's the most important thing. You opened a new club. What Club Dingo? Man, that'd be like. Is there like there's like a petting zoo in the corner, like farm animals and stuff like that? Okay, good. That's the important part. Good to hear, Dingo. Your presence was missed. I wasn't able. Couldn't make any mystery flopper jokes for like 2 months. Lejad killed turned. That's come on now. Lejad is Lejad is the homie and a very, very good dude. That's yeah. he's very divisive in the style of music, but he made some amazing scratch records and tools. Um, Word lizard, yeah, the FBI erases your brain every night, so you have to learn. I mean, that's tough. Maybe I don't know. What would the memento guy do? Like, I mean, I'm not saying tattoo like stuff onto your body, but like maybe just write down or record what you learned, and then you can watch it the next day after your mind's been erased. Should still work. Your muscle memory is like different, so your muscle memory will improve even if your brain is reset every night. Um, oh man, I think Amazon outage is definitely affecting the stream. It says 9 people on Twitch right now, on my end at least. That's pretty low for a masterclass. Anyways, today we're gonna do some scratch stuff. The Joe Cooley came up. The waves scratches, of course, came up. And there's another thing about vocal scratching with swing, which I think is interesting. I didn't really prepare that, but I might be able to demonstrate. Gary was talking about swinging vocal cuts, which is kind of interesting. And I think there's a couple details that make it a lot easier to do. But yeah. Anyways, let's see. What should we start with? Joe Cooleys. Let's start with Joe Cooleys. It's the most basic thing. Let me see. Is the scratch visualizer's goofing again? 1 second. Man, they keep updating it, and it's cool. Like the updates are sweet and stuff, but yeah, the updates are cool, but the what am I trying to say? There's something funky going on with that. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. No, that doesn't do it. What if I do this? No. No, that's not it either. Where's the... Oh, man. Maybe we'll just have to deal with it. It's like putting like little lines through. 1 sec. Let me just... But it keeps crashing, basically, was what I was going to say. I wish I could turn off those lines. I don't know if that's a thing, if I can turn off the beat grid on this. Maybe not. There's like, yeah, it makes it look like we're in an old, ancient movie. Yeah, the scratch visualizer, that's what is up here. It's a little funky, but it's a very cool tool. It's getting more stable, but still not 100% stable. Anyways, okay, Joe Cooley scratch. So this is one that comes up quite a bit. People are like, what is a Joe Cooley? There's a million tutorials and they're all different, which is a very common thing. Maybe I won't go just that, but basically like I think the issue with the Joe Cooley scratch is the name. That's the most confusing part because I'll turn the visualizer off for now. That will get rid of the lines, but the lines are unfortunately from the newest update. They just like it. I literally just updated it today, and the lines are now one of the things. I don't know if man, I'm trying to see if there's any setting. Doesn't look like there's a setting to to change that, unfortunately. I can maybe there's one thing here. No. Let's see. I don't know. Let me try that real quick. I don't think that's any better. You can why DM me? Just write it here. Um, if you want to yeah help with that. But anyways, okay. The Joe Cooley scratch. So the problem is that um the name is the Joe Cooley scratch, and Joe Cooley is a DJ essentially, um, or not essentially. He is a DJ, and so saying the Joe Cooley scratch is like saying the Kubert scratch or something. You know, there's just so there's just so many like um, so many different techniques that he does and so many different patterns that it's hard to narrow it down. So when you uh, see like a Joe Cooley scratch tutorial, there's various ways of doing it, like that people like that to them is the Joe Cooley scratch or the most significant one. Um, and then um, just sorry, I'll get to that in a sec. Real deal. So yeah, there's different like patterns and different techniques, and then the other thing I think is that a lot of people like just sort of were taught it, or like there's a significant amount of people who I think teach the Joe Cooley scratch, but have maybe never like never heard Joe Cooley himself scratch, or like don't know that Joe Cooley is a person, basically. So like that's why you get some really weird tutorials, because I'm like, I don't know, like okay, you're showing the Joe Cooley scratch, but you're like, or you're teaching it, but I've never heard him do the pattern that you're teaching. But yeah, there's a few different sources. I'd say if you like, the best thing is to do your homework, listen, try to figure it out by ear. Joe Cooley's best references, I would say, are the New Music Seminar Battle, which we now have video of. There's never a video of it that was accessible when I was coming up, but now I think maybe in the past 5 years, like somebody uploaded Cash Money versus Joe Cooley, so that's a really good reference video. And then for audio, there's Joe Cooley and Rodney O have an album. And yeah, basically Joe Cooley does cuts all over the album, and so you can hear it multiple times throughout. Yeah, and somebody posted a little clip in a Discord. I didn't really know that Joe Cooley was cutting on it, but there is like a few seconds of what sounds like a Joe Cooley scratch on there. So yeah. But I'm gonna show you basically variations and to me what a Joe Cooley sort of is. Okay, so real deal. Basically, I'm doing the exact same thing. Like, when was this information from? Because this update, like these lines are from today, or like the update it was within the last week. So, if that information, because that's what I'm doing, but if that information is from more than a couple days ago, then it's out of date. Yeah, because when I when I put on the scratch visualizer, you're seeing the line. You're not seeing any of the background, but these up and down lines are a recent development. That I'll just have to talk to them about it. Yeah. No, unfortunately, it seems like those lines always existed, but they're it seems like they're in their update they made them thicker, and now they're not green screening out of the video, because that's essentially what you have to do, is green screen it. So it is what it is. We'll have to deal with it today. It looks annoying, but yeah, so that's what we get for using cutting edge software. Okay, so there we go. Yep, I will. I talk to them regularly, and they've put in some of my requests already, but this is, like I said, this is today's development for me. Okay, so the Joe Cooley scratch. There's a few different ways of doing it. um, and yeah, essentially what it is it's like fast. It's a fast chirp and usually baby combo, and sometimes like a tear. Or there's this technique like before tears. They call them swirls, and as far as I can tell, um, swirls are a little bit ambiguous. They're a triplet sound, but like a swirl doesn't have to be a tear, but sometimes it kind of was. So either a 1/4 back tear, that is a swirl, or a I think also like some people just do like a reverse baby. But it's sort of a pitched baby. It's like that. Yeah. Or even like a scribble kind of. But it's, yeah, basically like a Joe Cooley is those sorts of combos. Another classic one is that kind of stuff. Yeah, those are all effectively your Joe Cooleys. And yeah, I'd say usually what I would say is to start off, stick to. Here, I'm gonna put on a beat, but I would say stick to the baby scratch variations. So and the single baby scratch. So this is the easiest combo and the one that I would start with if I were anybody learning it. Is just basically you're doing long chirp and short baby. Just making sure it's not clipping. Okay, so over the beat. Yeah. Yes, good observation, Lizard. I am using my weak hand because for like traditional like Joe Cooley stuff, I'm better at it on my weak side. I sort of like I don't know. I think this is just stylistic choice. Everyone's got their own things, but on my left side, I focus more on like more complex record movements. But my record hand, my that's not my dominant hand, so it's not that fast. So my Joe Cooleys are like pretty slow. But on my right side, I can rip pretty decent Joe Cooleys. And yeah, so my left side is more the modern technical side, and my right side is old school scratching. So, um, yeah. So the basic combo like is chirp, short baby, two chirps, short baby. So if I get out my trusty whiteboard, if I can find the markers. This is essentially Joe Cooley. The visualizer won't work for my weak side or vinyl. I'll put it on for the other stuff, but for Joe Cooley's, I can turn it on when I switch sides for my Joe Cooleys, but I'm gonna notate it here. So basically, first combo. There we go. Chirp, baby, chirp, chirp, baby. The babies are half the time. So basically, this is like, if you think of this whole technique as 4 notes. It's 4 notes. So you get one half, one half. So it adds up to 4. But the little babies are just like a really quick half note. So one of the tricks with the Joe Cooley is that you sort of eventually will get this motion. That will become like one movement. Baby chirp, baby chirp. Make sense? Little baby, and then a chirp. So yeah, when you start it slow. Just like that. So that's like the most basic combo. Yeah, and then one variation that I would throw in there is just instead of doing the 2 chirp part of it, just also alternate just chirp baby, chirp baby, chirp baby. That's something that you would do like to mix it up. So I'll sort of do the basic combo and then mix in just chirp baby to add some more tension. That kind of thing. So hopefully you can kind of hear it, but when you do just the chirp baby, it's a bit syncopated and makes it a little bit more tense to mix it up and to sort of give it a lift at the end. So that's the basic one. Then the second most basic in the sense of like easy to understand, but not necessarily easy to pull off is like I call this a double Joe Cooley, but essentially it's 2 babies. So yeah, doing like a little scribble in there, just 2 babies. Just like that. And then the other variation, as I was alluding to earlier, is the swirl one. And that one, I'd say the most straightforward way is to do a tear. It's essentially just a 1/4 2-back tear. So that's just like a tear. But like I said, sometimes it's a little like ambiguous. It could be like you can sort of achieve the same sound by doing. Yeah, so sometimes like just doing like basically a forward and then a reverse baby, or both of them achieve a similar sound when you do them at speed. Yeah. Those are basically the Joe Cooley variations. I don't think there's any more other than that, really. Obviously, get better pitching and, make them faster and that kind of thing. And I'd say the goal tempo for those, for a lot of people, should be 120. That's another thing with Joe Cooley's. I think the power of them is that baby chirp kind of movement. It becomes sort of a automatic, like it becomes one sort of movement together almost. And that's why you can speed it up and get some nice speed, and that's when it begins to sound like impressive, and I think what makes it sound like a Joe Cooley and like what people are looking for. So yeah, try to get those up to like 120. Like this is like 116, but this kind of tempo is good for Joe Cooley's. um yeah, and I think anyone can do it. One thing to put in perspective, or to put this in perspective, is Joe Cooley and Cash Money and those guys were doing it over electro, which is like 120 to 125. They're doing it over those beats in the late 80s. So if they could do it, man, 40 years ago with the technology and the equipment, like the mixers and the faders and the slip mats, like all the stuff they had to use, if they could do it 40 years ago, everyone can do it. There's nothing holding you back, except for practice. So yeah. Um, Trollbot said, "Should we even be doing Joe Cooley's? You're always pushing us to be original." So the Joe Cooley is like, I think at its root, what I would say is it's basically just a baby chirp combo. Like the basic. If you really break it down, the simplest form of it. It's just a baby and a chirp combo. It's one of the most basic combos. It's one of the first, most fundamental combos. Like the baby scratch is the easiest and first technique, and then the chirp is a lot of times the second technique. Sometimes the stab, depends on which direction you want to start. But um, yeah, it's the first. It's the first or second combo that I teach everybody. Um, and you 100 million% should be learning it, because originality and stuff is not it doesn't come from like techniques. It comes from your style and how you do them and how you use them musically. um yeah, so like you can get 100 people and they do the Joe Cooley scratch in like 100 different ways. um and some people make them sound really good and have great pitch control and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, basically like a technique is just a tool, no matter what it is. Joe Cooley is just a technique. It's sort of a combo too. Um, um, Lizard, don't be antagonizing. Um, it's a legitimate question. I think like it's like basically like the yeah there's always the idea of like biting or like plagiarizing people's like like styles and stuff, essentially, which is something you always have to watch out for. But when like yeah, when talking about like biting and plagiarizing, usually that comes down to like routines or like exact like like exact combos in many of them. Um, yeah, like essentially, if you like, if basically all you did was study Joe Cooley and all you did was his patterns, then that's probably what you don't want to do. But for one technique and one combo, absolutely. So that's the Joe Cooley scratch. Here, I'll put on the visualizer. Hopefully, it didn't crash, and we'll deal with the lines. And I will put on. Yeah, I need a scratch tool here. Oh man, just a second. Okay, I'm gonna got to tweak the settings again. Tweak the settings. Where's the other one I need? Maybe this. Okay, let's see how that looks. That's a little better. So, nice. Yeah, Joe Cooley was super ahead of his time. And yeah, as well as Cash Money. But yeah, so let's see, the Joe Cooley scratch on the visualizer. Yeah. So you can kind of see it on the visualizer. It looks a little different, but it is basically the same as what I drew. If we made it bigger and stretched out, it would look very similar to that. All right. To average the fader cut, let me see. Yeah, I'll do the average and we'll see how that looks. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that looks a little cleaner. It's always slightly confusing tweaking it to make it look 100% followable, but yeah, so that's our Joe Cooley. Any questions about the Joe Cooley before we move on? I have not used it live. I would not risk it live at this point. It crashes every stream. So I don't know if it'd be worth trying to do it live yet. Maybe one day, Trollbot. So let's see. Oh yeah, waves. Sorry, I was trying to think of what I had planned today. Okay, so yeah, we were asked about waves. There's been a lot of talk about the variations and stuff. Some people watched the stream yesterday and saw some of the things I was practicing, which is like brand new stuff for me, but I can kind of explain a little bit of what's happening. There's specific combos people want to know about. But yeah, essentially the wave is it's knuckle tears. So instead of doing your tears like rigid, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, we're doing like knuckle tears where you pull back and up, and pull back and down, pull back and up, pull back and down. This is me turning my hand sideways, so it's harder to do with my like pinky finger, but you guys can see that's how my hand's moving on the record. One of the key parts with waves is making sure that you're not changing direction when you do the knuckle pop. So this is a very common thing that I see that is incorrect. Like you're doing the knuckle movement, but you're changing directions on the down, but the down has to go in the same direction. So it's back, 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 back. And not back, forward, back, forward. Okay, so proper backs. And then incorrect. You can see the difference on the visualizer. But it's a little bit tougher to feel sometimes. I feel like when people try and do it up to speed, they often will get a change of direction in there, and they're actually doing tiny babies, which is incorrect. What's it look like with my right hand? I wouldn't know because I can't do them on my right. Yeah, but also, Lizard, you can make sure that your tears are really solid. This is my threshold for when people should learn waves. So if you're basically, you shouldn't move on to waves unless you can do this. So, unless you can do tears that precisely and do a flare, a one-click flare on each section precisely, then you can't do waves. So maybe you can do those. If you can do those, then you're ready for waves. But but essentially, like waves are definitely an advanced technique. And they're one that just like they rely on a lot of building blocks that come before them. Yeah, so basically like when you're learning waves, you've got to have really strong tears. Like your tears kind of are the fundamental movement. You're sort of tearing in the waves anyways. And yeah, at the end of the day, tears are like more useful. You do them more often anyways. Um, it's always like the deeper down the rabbit hole you go, the less that you will, and the less that you should use a technique. Like you should always do chirps more than flares, and one-click flares more than 2 clicks, and 2 clicks more than 3 clicks. Like the more intricate the technique gets, the less that you should use it or that you're going to use it. So waves are like a lot more niche, whereas tears they're sort of a backbone of record control. So yeah. But that tear flares, that's always my kind of litmus test for if somebody can actually do tears. I wouldn't say this even means that you mastered them, but here, I'll do it over a beat. But essentially, tear flares, if you can do a tear flare consistently and do different patterns of them and stuff, it means that both your tears and your one-click flares are consistent enough, and your hand independence is strong enough that you can put clicks right in the middle of each tear. And yeah, if you can't do that, it means that there's one of those 3 things that's an issue. Either your tears are weak, your flares are weak, or your hand independence is weak, because if your tears and flares are both strong enough, but you put them together and they fall apart, it's just independence. So this is how they sound over a beat. Yeah. Yeah, well, it just takes practice. With tear flares, the only way to learn them, the best way, is just do it really slow and just make sure that you're getting 2 notes every time. Yeah. A common mistake with those in timing is people often get this. Like essentially clicking on top of the silence, which is a technique too. You can do that, but it's not what we're trying to do, and it's not really putting the flares in the correct spot. So yeah, get your tear flares down before the waves. But anyways, once you've got your tear flares down, I'm assuming for today's class, so that we can proceed, everyone has mastered their tear flares, as I showed on the beat right there. So wave combos, I always recommend the first wave combo is, it starts with like the way that you do tears. Like when you learn a tear, you should learn the 1 forward 2 back first. That's the 1 forward 2 back tear. 1 note forward, 2 back. And then 1 forward 2 back wave. You want to be able to do them slow too. Like as you can hear, they're not as defined as tears, so it's not like you want to get 2 distinct notes. It's hard to get them exactly like silent between, because it's sort of this, I don't know, wobble type of sound rather than a complete silence. But you still want to be able to do them at different speeds. There's some various speeds. Oh, there we go. Lo-Fi requested this, so, and I'm using his beats, so here we go. Perfect timing. Yeah, it is a grind. Honestly, I've been practicing waves for probably 15 years. More than that. Probably more than that. Like I did some primitive, I'd say sloppy waves in my first national championship in 2011. So I'd obviously been doing them for at least a couple years before that. And I'm honestly like, even like this week, I've made progress and learned brand new stuff with them. Um, yeah, I think part of it though is like for me, I had nobody show me or teach me them, so I spent a lot of time sort of doing like chasing up movements that I don't think were like correct, or like sort of wasting time on them. Um, just sort of, yeah, like just assuming that um that was how they're done because yeah, I just learned from hearing them, seeing videos of people doing them, but as anybody who was around at the time knows, like a lot of videos were like either like pretty bad quality, like either low, like 240p or whatever, and like 15 frames per second. So like you have to, you sort of infer a little bit. You can't see exactly like you can now with people doing them, where it's like a lot easier to see exactly what's happening. So I wasted a lot of time with them, so I don't think they take that long. But yeah, getting the one forward, two back, and getting one forward and back, back, one back, back. Those, you just have to isolate that motion. Don't change direction, so don't get this. That's bad. And then the other thing is, oh yeah, this is another common mistake. So changing direction like a baby scratch, that's bad. The other one is um not popping back down before you get back to the uh beginning of the sample. So if you only pop up, like you get sort of just a weird baby scratch essentially. Like to me, it just sounds like a baby scratch when you pop up and then either you pop down like right at the beginning of the sample, or like when like basically you've already got back to the beginning. Like I guess an extreme way is if you pop up on the back and down on the forward. Like it mostly ends up just sounding like a weird baby scratch. So yeah, it's important to get one forward, bam, bam, back. Sandman asked, "Do I have problems with slipping, like with my fingers slipping across the record and stuff?" In general, like not really, but this is something that I've found interesting. Like when I started teaching people, I get asked this all the time, and I remember it happening to me for a long time. So I think it's normal. It's completely normal to have like your fingers sliding, but it just goes away with practice and muscle memory. There's no history lesson. Yeah, I should give some credit. So, okay, here's my my lineage of it is that I first saw Enfo doing it on like some scratch videos with like the Truth, and he did it when he won the 2004 Vestax World Scratch Championship, which was probably the first world championship for like freestyle scratching. Is like the first like major freestyle scratch battle. I don't think there was any before that. Um, so he won essentially the first scratch world title, and he was doing them. He always does them on the reverse as well. Um, but yeah, he was definitely like one of the innovators. I've talked to him personally, and he's a super humble dude, and he has said that he saw iEmerge doing them as well. So got to give credit where credit's due. iEmerge definitely um, innovated with scratching a lot with some aggressive stuff, and he's doing something similar. And then yeah, basically, as the story goes, I think Enfo moved to France, and then Enfo won also the first ever Coupe Sifre CCF scratch battle, which was, aside from Vesak's, was probably the highest level freestyle scratch battle in the world, and he won the first one. I believe it's 2005. And then, oh yeah, and Enfo calls them whips, but I don't know. I've heard waves a lot, and basically like sometimes stuff just gets sort of named by the community, and then later like you talk to somebody and they call it something different. But yeah, waves or whips, both kind of the same thing. Um, but yeah, essentially, Enfo won this Coupe de Fred battle in France, and then the next year, and then the year after, there's tons of dudes from France. All the scratch science guys and other ones were doing waves and whips. Um, Now, who knows? Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe there was already stuff going on, but I feel like that's sort of the lineage that you know a lot of people got influenced by Enfo doing it, and then yeah, became very popular among French DJs, and then those videos moved on to like the overall, the greater scratch community, and that's at least like what I think kind of popularized it. Um, but yeah, um, yeah. So okay, so yeah, basically the 142 back. That's like the most basic and the easiest one, and that's the one that you can get up to like decent speeds the quickest. Yeah, being able to do pitching and stuff like I'm doing there is very important too. And I think another good drill when practicing waves is to do just baby scratches and alternate waves in them. All of that is stuff just to practice to get more control with your waves, um and I think in a practical way, like when you're doing these in the context of your combos and integrating them into your style, um a lot of times waves do just replace a baby scratch. So you guys have probably seen me do this kind of combo before. So you just basically can sub the wave in place of a baby scratch or a chirp. Yeah, it basically replaces, so like a chirp flare even. Yeah. So for that reason, because of how I and I think a lot of people, how you end up using them in your flows and in your combos, they replace a baby scratch essentially. So being able to just baby scratch and wave, like alternating, is a very important skill. Yeah. And yeah, like I said, pitch control, you know, um, if Tables was still around, he's picky about people not using waves in like a pitching and expressive kind of way. Um, and yeah, I think there's some truth to that, where basically like when you're doing waves, like you can still put accents on them and you can still do scales and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's important to practice your scales. Low files probably heard this before. But yeah, practice your skills even with your faderless stuff, with your record hand stuff. It'll give you more expression, but also I think it helps you learn stuff faster and easier. Like if you practice something one way over and over and over, as soon as you start trying to practice it like higher pitches, it'll fall apart. But if just from the ground, like as soon as you start learning a technique, if you learn it with different pitches, it's gonna like build your muscle memory quicker. Just trying to do like different flavors of the same thing. That's just a general like practice drilling thing. If you watch my last night's stream, where that's probably the first time in a while where I just like I didn't even like I wasn't reading chat. I was just like just practicing and just jamming on the stream. But you can see I'm doing like all sorts of slightly different variations of the same combo in order to just give me different like different looks and different angles of the same technique. I think that makes stuff kind of sink into your muscle memory quicker than just doing the exact same thing over and over. Yeah. Let me see. Word Lofile. You know where to find me. And hopefully everyone else does, but lessons@vekked.com. Hit me up. I've got a few people I need to get back to. But yeah, you know, hit me up. I've got about 1.5 weeks of lessons, and then I'm off for 2 or 3 weeks doing shows, and then yeah, but then I'll be back for the winter. Okay, got a question on YouTube here. Recoil Silverclaws said, are you Wolverine? Any tips for someone who has been DJing for 15 years, but just dipping your toes and scratching? Man, fundamentals: baby, chirp, stab. Those are the only 3 scratches, and combos of those. Those are the only 3 scratches I would even mess with for like, if you can, try to stick with them for like 3 months and don't even look up another scratch. That's sometimes the worst thing you can do, is look up like other scratches, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know, chirps are cool, but what about this boomerang auto backwards somersault flare? And then that's where people get either overwhelmed or also just like end up kind of focusing on the wrong things, or things that will take too long to show their show the fruits of your labor. But like a chirp and a baby, you know. Like that's just 2 different techniques that whole time there, and you can make a scratch living off of just those 2 techniques. That's pretty much DJ Premier. DJ Premier, like chirp, baby, stab, like, you know, he does do some other stuff, but like most of the stuff that you know him for is just doing those 3 things. Not even, he never double times either. It's just like single time, triplets, half time. He's got 3 gears, 3 techniques, but he knows them inside and out. So that's more important than knowing too many techniques. What up, Mr. Kevin Adam? What up? Who else? Wicked Wyata, Genki, Trollbot. Okay. So I went into like the first wave combo. The second wave combo, so this is where it deviates from tears. For whatever reason, with waves, the waves are just easier to do backwards than forwards. I think this is a fairly universal thing. Almost everyone, like most people who do waves, do them backwards. There's very few that do them forwards. And I get questioned about how I do mine forwards a lot, and like they just took me super long, and it's honestly, I feel like it's only this year they've been getting consistent. But so for waves, instead of practicing like with tears, you would move on to your forward ones next, but for waves you would add more reverse ones. So doing 2 reverse waves. and then from there, even like 3 and 4. I should put on a slower beat for this one. This tempo is still a little tough. What do we got? Oh yeah. Let's see. Try this. Oh no, I like this one. Yeah, there we go. You know, just getting more and more, like, just chaining together those reverse ones. Just like that. Starting to hurt my hand. So yeah, listen to your body. If it's getting too sore, take a break. You can always practice another day. Not if you snap all your tendons though. Is the direction your hand faces that is most important? What do you mean the direction? In what sense, Bayada? Any more questions about waves and such? I'll show some more combos, but yeah, that's essentially that's all your reverse ones. That's your first like year of waves, probably, at least. I don't know. It takes forever to learn these. So all the reverse stuff, and then you can get forwards, like yeah, just doing 2 forward, 1 back. Yeah, there's some wave tears, wave flares. Do they tie into clover tears? Like you can combo them, yeah, for sure. You can, in theory, do wave clovers. I don't think I can really do them. I had a way of doing them, but my muscle memory has unlearned them to learn these. I guess those are them. They're not super clean, but that's a clover tear with waves. Any more questions about those? And then the one combo. So this one is just one of my personal combos. I don't think I've heard anyone else do it, but I was practicing it yesterday, and somebody asked at the very start. But essentially, there's I don't know what to call these. I usually call them. I don't know why I call them this, but like flat two clicks, where it's like an orbit, but you just do it in the same direction. So that's the fader combo, and then I was putting 3 waves in each direction. Yeah, those are still a work in progress, but yeah, you're essentially putting the 2 clicks. It's I'm not even gonna break it down further. It's complicated where the click position is. They're not even like there's only 3 waves and there's 4 clicks, so the click versus wave ratio is very strange. The transition for the forward to backward. There's not really a transition per se. It is really tough to do. That's probably the thing that took me the longest with the forwards. But is the knuckle up at the top of the change of direction? No, never. It's always the home base is always down. So here, okay, bear with me on this because this is like a little bit abstract, but but I think this is how I think of them, and I think how it makes sense. But basically, like waves are flares of the record hand, and when you put your knuckle up, that's closing the fader. So if I like had my knuckle on the fader, bam, like I'm closing the fader every single time when I bend my knuckles. So when you're doing a when you're doing any flare combo, you would keep the fader open at the end, right? So yeah, like if I do like 2 1-click flares over a tear forward and back. So yeah, being able to snap like the click with your knuckles it's the same position. You just put it in the same place that you would a flare. And so it always follows exactly what a flare would do. So yeah, um, if I'm doing like a 3-click flare. There you go. That's the wave tutorial. That's probably some of the most detailed I've gotten with waves. I feel like the more I teach them, the more I teach them and the more I practice them, the more kind of insight I get to like how they function, and it's always important to like to have sort of ideas of how things work in practice. I think I don't know if it helps other people, but for me, it's like I like to know like to make these relationships between techniques, like how the wave is, as you guys could sort of see there. I think that's the first time I've demonstrated like that, but the wave is like the fader click. You know, if I'm actually hitting the fader with my knuckles, bam, it's like a it's like a flare. And if you think of it like that, then doing combos and putting them into your other techniques in place of a flare, like you kind of know like where they're going to fit and where they fit in with your other techniques. Um, and yeah, it makes it easier to like combo and integrate and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it helps avoid being on like technique island. That's something that is always uh something that people have trouble with. Basically, like when you um when you learn a new technique and you don't learn any like combos, or you don't learn any like way of transitioning in and out of it to other stuff, then like you just basically have this new technique and you can do it by itself, like you're drilling it, and then you can't get into it and you can't get out of it without like stopping or like putting a pause in or doing something awkward, basically. So yeah, as soon as you're learning a new technique, like as soon as you have it so you can do it over and over consistently with like a steady rhythm, even slow, start putting it with other techniques and figure out where it works into your style and like the bigger picture. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. The tables turned. Oh, nice. Nice transponder. I'm also a QSU alumni many years ago. I kind of I learned most of this stuff prior to QSU though. Like I had Kubert's DIY videos. Those were definitely the most formative in my Scratch learning experience. The days of setting up a tiny CRT TV by the setup with the DVD player, and you put in the DIY video and you scratch back and forth with Kubert for hours. Yeah. Who else did that? um do people still use those videos, like the question answer videos where you like scratch back and forth with someone on a video? I think Beat Junkies does something like that, but yeah. I always wondered, like, it's something is I wouldn't use it like now, but I'm always curious if it's something that people actually use and like, because maybe it is a useful thing to, maybe I can make one. um yeah, make my version instead. Yeah, I always feel like it'd be tough, like you go like 4 bars and then you stop and then do 4 more bars. Whose tutorial series should beginners watch? Mine. Only me. Um, yeah. I don't know. I have I don't know. I'm like so picky on stuff. I have trouble recommending too many sources. Maybe other people might, who have learned recently, might have some good ones, but um it's a minefield out there. I'll just say that it's a minefield on YouTube of misinformation. So you have to be careful. Lamb chop, nice. Yeah. Yeah, the lamb chop Q&A is classic. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, same Brandon. Man, I do feel though like the DIY 2 video like disappointed me a little bit. Yeah. Beat junkies, yeah, that's a good call, Supa. I would say yeah, beat junkies are probably like the the foremost tutorial people because there's so many of them and they're all legends and they've got such a wide range of styles. You know, some of the beat junkies are amazing goated scratchers and some are amazing goated jugglers, that kind of thing. Um, let me see. You got the PDX 2000s. Those are all time classic turntables. Um, Word Sandman. Yeah, no, that's what something that took me a long time to figure out was I couldn't tell if people were doing knuckle up and then down or down and then up or like any sort of like odd number or what it is. But yo, you're out of here, Dingo. Good night, my brother. Good to see you in the chat. Good luck with the bar. You need somebody to come and play drum and bass, let me know. But yeah, the with waves, like basically, yeah, it's hard to tell like what direction they're doing them, and I would also say like, um, that there are different ways of doing them. There's definitely some people who don't do them the way that I do, and they invert the movements and um, basically go um, like or sometimes stop midway, like up, down, that kind of stuff. Um, But yeah, but I don't know. For me, that's tougher. Maybe I'll dive into that like down the road or something. But I think there's just sort of like, yeah, there's record hand is just so diverse and it's so deep and everybody's got their own ways of doing stuff. And it's like way more than the fader. There's like kind of wiggle room of like, you can do it this way or this way. And it's very similar sounds. Like even the Joe Cooley at the very start, there's sort of like three ways of getting a similar like double Joe Cooley sound, like either the double scribble, the reverse scribble, or the tear. Like all three of them are kind of the same like function. And I know that all like different people, depending on what feels best and what's most intuitive, like do it in different ways. I do play drum and bass. I love drum and bass. That's my favorite genre to DJ. It's really good for scratching, dude, as well. I need to create a new drum. I'm gonna play some drum and bass when I'm in the U.S. I just need to dig up for some more tunes. I mean, I did just play like last week, but nice, dope. Send some tunes over. Post them in the Discord. Someone put the Discord link. Kevin Adams. Somebody said the Discord link was broken yesterday. The one that we use. Someone verify that. Nice. What else did we have? Oh yeah. So, let's see. Okay. Gary was asking about swung vocal cuts. Let me see if I can. Like I said, I didn't prepare this, but let me find a swung beat by our man Lo-File here. I'ma spit at you some hits that's gonna get at you and be messing with your. That one's good. That one's very obvious swing. Okay, sweet. And now, okay. When is my next stream? Sunday. Sunday is my next stream. Okay. So now, yeah, basically, okay, one of the main tricks for swung vocal cuts is the way that you beat match the sample. You have to beat match it in a very particular way. That way being triplets. One second, I might have to slow this down a bit. Let me see. To make this easier, let's try.
Cut like a guillotine. 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 Guillotine. Cut like a 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 guillotine.
Okay, that's the idea. I was trying to figure out how to sort of beat match and stuff, but basically I'm beat matching in triplets, so it's da 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 ka. The cut like a guillotine snare.
Cut like a guillotine. 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 Cut like a guillotine. 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 Cut like a
So yeah, like basically just like triplets. That's how you swing it. So yeah, essentially swinging any sort of cuts. You can hear like that little like clicky hi-hat thing.
Cut like a guillotine. Cut like a guillotine. Cut like a guillotine. Cut like a guillotine. Cut like a guillotine.
All that is like triplets, da 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 da, and da 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 da. You know, so that's essentially it. Yeah, you could get like even deeper with it, but basically a little theory. Okay, so here is we'll just do straight notes. Da 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 da. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and got it? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and what swing is taking the and note. It doesn't always have to be the and, but in this case, it's the and note. So you take the and note and you move it later. So instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So instead of da 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 da, it's da 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 da. Okay, so that's what swing is. Swing is just taking the every second note and moving it later. But then here's another sort of another perspective of swing is that a lot of times, especially in hip hop, we're using some sort of some flavor of a triplet swing. So another way of thinking about swing is you're actually doing a triplet. But you're muting the second note or the third note. You're muting this note. 1 second. Do I have another color of marker? Where's the markers at? What is that? That's a battery. Man, how do I always lose my markers? I don't move them. Okay, anyways, so if we mute these notes. So a triplet would be So swing it's just a triplet, but you just don't do you only do 2 out of 3 notes instead of all 3. So a triplet, and then a swing is you're just muting that one note. Yeah, makes sense? Hopefully. So, yeah, if you're trying to swing stuff, vocal samples especially, make it into triplets, and then so that will have the right spacing between the words, and then you put in pauses and do your techniques swung and in triplets.
Cut like a guillotine. 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 Cut like a cut like a guillotine, cut like a guillotine, 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 cut like a guillotine.
Even that's kind of tough to do, to put in the pauses and everything, and not do anything else. Like sometimes it's actually easier to sort of like just do filler scratches and stuff than just those releases. But that's definitely good practice, is to like try to do releases and everything with syllables and rearrange them, but keep the swing the whole time. Yeah. You try to do the same thing with quintuplets. You're a madman, Supalupicus. I don't really mess with the fives very often, unless I'll dabble on a 5/4 beat. Like I'll scratch in different time signature beats, and I'll dabble in a 5/4 polymeter, but a quintuplet, I don't know. I've never figured out a way to make it sound cool. Yeah. Let me see. Man, I feel like this is a good masterclass. We covered a lot of stuff. We got pretty deep. We went hard in the paint with a lot of concepts and stuff. So you know what? Instead of drawing it out and ruining it, let's just cap it there. Cap it there. We'll raid somebody, and yeah, I might be back later to practice on stream. Gonna have some dinner and stuff, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I feel like yeah, I've been grinding a lot, as you guys could probably see last night, and grinding some new patterns. Found some inspiring patterns, but yeah. Nice transponder. Yeah, I'm I like trying to spread the good word of scratching. Like the way I look at it is, if you wanted, like, say you're like an evil person and you're like totally against scratching and you wanted scratching to die, what you would do is just like not teach about it and not talk about it. You wouldn't spread the knowledge, you'd keep it all to yourself, and that's like how you could kill scratching. So I want to do the opposite of that. Try to get the word out there, get as many people into it. And yeah, I'd rather I want to be old and wrinkly and have cool new techniques and videos to watch from people, rather than being like, people used to scratch back when I was a kid. Scratching, we used the rub records. Yeah. Who are we gonna raid? I see somebody. Let's raid. Okay, raid. Oh no, shoot. I mean, it's a. I wouldn't say it's a dying art, honestly. I wouldn't say that. I know that's the pessimistic viewpoint. Scratch. This is what I say. Nobody hates and is more pessimistic about scratching than scratchers themselves. Like, it's always the people who do it who are like the most like like pessimistic. And something that I've noticed, even, man, last week at my gigs, once again, I always get this like kind of epiphany, or like this experience where when I'm on the road, is that most people like think that it's more kind of dead than it is, because there's not a lot of like community events that people are doing, and there's not like there's just like not people building local scenes. So what happens, this is what I see all the time on the road. Like toured all around North America a bunch of times now, and I go to like certain cities, and there'll be like a bunch of people who scratch come to my show to see me, like they know about my stuff or whatever, and like they're there to see me, and they're all in the same room, but they don't know each other. Like there's all these people who scratch from the same city, and they've never jammed together. They've never had a scratch session, and I strongly believe that that's the case. Like all over the place. There's always more people that do it than what people think because there's just nothing to like. It just happens on the internet, and everyone seems like so far away and stuff. But like, I lived for a long time. For 12 years, I lived in Waterloo, Canada, and that's about like Waterloo itself is like 250,000 people maybe. Um, and there's like I don't know five, seven of us scratching, and so I thought. But even like since I'd moved away, and even after living there for so long, I've there's multiple people like three, four, five people from the city who are turntablists who I never met before, never knew. I was doing scratch sessions at my house, but I didn't like advertise them publicly. But that's the thing. There's other people who are out there doing it, and yeah, and the fact that they're like, you think about just companies are like putting out sort of turntablist specific gear, like basically like, do you think like all these companies would put out portable turntables in like mass mass amounts basically unless there's people buying them, like, and the VL7s or not the VL7s, the RP7s, the reloop turntable is like, that's like a niche release, right? Seems like, but they're gonna make a killing off it, and that there's like people buying it out there and stuff, and yeah. So, anyways, maybe it's a niche art form, but I think it's like always less niche than what people think. Yeah. Find your local scratcher, start your own scratch jams, advertise them, do them in a public space. You'll find people. 12-inch portables, man, that'd be sick. But also, they tried that. I have it. It's called the Scratchaphone, and it's like it's just like the physical turntable embodiment of a herniated disc. That's basically what it is. Yeah, the one like a Congo drum, that's what I have too. Yeah, it's the drum one. Yeah. You could take it anywhere if you deadlift 4 plates. If you deadlift 4 plates and you're you compete in strongman competitions, you can take it everywhere. Yeah, it's battery powered, Kevin. Car battery. Yeah, it's battery powered by a freaking car battery that you have to lug alongside it. So yeah, it's a 12-inch portable battery powered turntable, like on paper. But yeah, anyways. Oh, the raid's happening. Okay, catch you guys on Sunday. Get in the Discord.